Thanks for joining us for The Drive Back, the movie podcast where we imitate our favorite thing to do after a movie, which of course is to talk about it on the ride home. I'm Garrett, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host Adrian.
How's it going?
And today, we're back after a little bit of a break with a rewatchable. What is that, Adrian?
Rewatchable is where both Garrett and myself have seen the film, and we go back in time to magically rewatch it for you to let you know if it's still worth it in current day.
Absolutely, and today we've got a good one. We're taking another look at The Witch. So all of this and more coming up on The Drive Back. As we said, we're back with another rewatchable, but we did want to talk about, we were gone for a week. For those of you who don't follow us on Instagram, you would not have seen the story we posted. Basically, on the post, I said some stuff came up between us. I didn't mean there's nothing going on here. You know, mom and dad are still together. But, you know, basically, he had some stuff come up. I've had some stuff come up in our private lives, so we just wanted to take a break for a week. And we haven't taken a break since we started this over a year ago.
So 66 straight episodes, I think.
65, 66, right around there.
Yeah.
So this is kind of been a long time coming. So, but we're back, and nothing is wrong. So Adrian's had a change of set, or if it's a really good green screen, I'll leave that up to you to find out.
Yeah, this is actually a blue screen. It does better with my shirt.
There you go. Gotcha. But as we said, we're taking a look at The Witch, which was among the horror movies that really started this kind of mainstream theater, art house horror kind of renaissance we came into. I believe The Witch came out first.
Yeah, smart horror.
Yeah, like it was The Witch, and then Hereditary, then Midsommar, then The Lighthouse, so it kind of just, snowballed from there. But let's go ahead and introduce The Witch. Released in 2015, The Witch was directed by Robert Eggers and stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Ralph Ineson, and Kate Dickie. A family in 1630s New England is torn apart by the forces of witchcraft, black magic, and possession. And this movie is gorgeous. I'm just going to go ahead and say that out of the gate. This is an incredibly well-shot horror movie. Also, I mean, we'll be talking about The Lighthouse in an episode in a couple of weeks, which is also by Robert Eggers. And the man knows how to make a movie.
Well, he's very focused on the period that the movie takes place in as well.
Yes.
So this movie's as much of a period piece as it is, a horror movie. I mean, it's dead accurate according to historians. Besides the spoiler, the witchcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what's cool is all the dialogue is based on actual writings of the time, which is really fascinating. And really gives it a life of its own. I'll preface this before we dive into any kind of spoilers, is I feel like this movie, it's short. It's like an hour and a half.
Very quick.
But I feel like there's a couple moments in this movie where it drags a little bit. Like it's a little slow. And maybe that's more of the art house feel. I think that The Lighthouse is a little bit more fast-paced and on point. But I don't know about you. Did you think the same before we dive into spoilers?
So this is the third time I've seen it, and it might come with rewatching and knowing what's happening. That might bring that up because I felt that for sure. But I also do think that there are times where the decision was made to let it's a common thing where they let the shot sit for a while. They let you sit with what you're looking at. And to me, I felt like there were a couple shots in this that they'd already established the purpose of this long shot, and it just felt extra
gratuitous.
Yeah, and just like a little too much to drive the point home for maybe viewers that didn't catch it the first time, and that definitely felt a little repetitive to me.
Yeah, and it's not always like, it's not like The Invisible Man, which had a lot of lingering shots, but that's because The Invisible Man was supposed to be in those shots.
An incredible film, by the way, if you haven't seen it.
Exactly. And so this one, it just feels a little too gratuitous and it's lingering, but let's go ahead and break the spoiler seal and get diving into some deeper thoughts about this movie. I think just besides the lingering shots, I really can't find any other faults in this movie. I mean, except
Yeah,
for
no, I've really liked this movie since it came out. I never really had a nitpick. I feel like I was one of those people that was like, this is the horror that I like right when it came out. And I think I think we talked about it, but it created the genre of smart horror. This was kind of what that first foray into that, which is horror that doesn't rely on jump scares, or like in your face horror, or just vast grossness.
yeah.
It really is more psychological and uneasy to watch, and I really enjoy this type of movie.
Exactly, and I think I was watching the trailer before I watched this again because I remember this had such a good trailer, and because it had all those like hype sentences that you always see in trailers, and one of them rings really true. I don't remember who said it or which publication, so I apologize. But one person said that this feels like something that we should not be watching, if that makes sense.
I would actually agree with that. Yeah,
I totally agree with it, and that's the kind of horror I like. I love the stuff that's just so unsettling that it feels like you shouldn't be watching it, but you are. That's why The Lighthouse was so successful. That's why Hereditary is so successful. Even Midsommar, and that's what I've been hearing. Kind of a spoiler, not a spoiler, but the new Candyman reboot is getting extremely high reviews.
it looks so fun.
So I'm ready to go see it. I'm seeing it on Sunday, so expect a review coming up soon on my blog. It just it's incredible how it does that. It just feels just unsettling. That's I think the pure essence of horror for me, and what makes a good horror movie is just, again, it's horror. It's not just look, there's a guy in the window, right? It's actual scary.
And I think that actual scary and the whole thing of forbidden to watch, or I shouldn't be watching this or anything, one, I think, comes from the dedication to what I mentioned about the period piece. It feels like it looks like a time when cameras did not exist. So being able to view this subconsciously feels odd.
Yeah.
Any movie set in this period definitely feels odd just by the nature of that. We know that this is not possible to film. So I think that adds a huge layer to it. And I think adding to the fact that these witch trials really did happen to some degree. And these kind of this hunt aspect and this fear and all this stuff going on has some historical truth to it. So I think those combined, and just the kind of voyeuristic camera at times where you're really just out there in the forest, really adds to that feeling of kind of, oh, I should not be here, and this is scary.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree. In thinking of that and kind of coalescing back, what would you say is your favorite moment in this movie?
Well, I love Black Phillip. Spoiler alert.
Yes.
Major one. But I really actually enjoy the end of this movie. I think it's a very, very surprising and wrap the ribbon around it ending, where it's kind of by giving in to what she wanted all along, that's how she becomes the witch, right? The whole time she's accused of being it, but she's not, but it drives her to become one. And I think that ending is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, my favorite sequence is the deal with Black Tom, or Black Phillip, excuse me, not Black Tom. That's from Deadpool, I believe. I think it's like the guy who's in the cage is like, "You killed Black Tom, you racist," that part.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Black Phillip, that sequence is incredible. And I have to disagree on the ending. I actually think that's another point I want to bring up. Most of this movie is very grounded. And I think that the ending, I would say up until the moment they all start floating, spoiler alert, it's great. But I think that little bit of cheese doesn't really sell it for me.
I will disagree, or I guess counter that. I think it's not cheesy. I personally feel that, to me, it shows, yeah, we kind of got a hint that this Black Phillip, like the demons are real, that witches are real, right? With Black Phillip, but that could be a hallucination. That could be like, oh, she's just driven to the point where she's imagining this. but them all flying shows that it's real. That everything that's been happening is by design, and there's real magic afoot.
I can see that. I think the floating of the women is a little weird, and I think that they could have.
Can you imagine? Not that you're wrong, but can you imagine walking into a forest and seeing 5 women floating 30 feet in the air, screaming?
And the devil in the form of a goat?
Well, he's just in my life as always.
Yeah, I would just rip my clothes off and join in. That sounds like a great time. But I do want to ask a question, because one of the things I kind of get from this movie is a little bit of the demonization of Christianity. Kind of the opposite of what we saw in Conjuring 3. Like, you know, and I want to provide a couple of points on this, because we're quickly shown that, you know, yes, Thomason's mother and father are, you know, they're good people, but like they act pretty heinously. They do like bloodletting to try and heal their son, and just they're not the best people. And then once Thomason starts embracing the, I guess for lack of a better term, the dark side, right? You know, the joyousness of the floating and the celebration going on in the woods, and you know, Black Phillip going like, oh, you know, do you want to live deliciously, right? Like it's almost kind of showing the good parts of, you know, witchcraft and of like perhaps the satanic process, but like I don't know. Like, what do you think about that?
I think that's where the horror aspect of this comes in. That, yeah, I do think that he's tempting her with the positives of witchcraft. But just like Christianity, right? There's a lot of positives. There's also a lot of negatives. I think that this movie focuses on the temptation side of it, and kind of, I would actually argue, the villainy of it, right? I mean, Black Phillip basically kills this entire family to get her.
True.
So, yeah, she might get a good life out of it, but what, 4 or 5 people died in the process?
Yeah.
But I will agree that this is a pretty stark contrast to The Conjuring 3, in where I do feel that it handles the subject matter unbiasedly. I won't say it celebrates it, or it takes it, or it knocks it. It is what it is, and I think that adds to that horror aspect that there is no agenda. This is just happening.
Yeah. It's just happening whether you like it or not.
Exactly. Whether we like it or not. And that's that voyeuristic, to me, feeling that we shouldn't be watching it. This is unfolding, and there's nothing you can do to stop it, but it's not pushing anything. It's just event after event after event, and I thought it was really, really great.
Yeah, which is great. It definitely doesn't take a stance, which I think is smart. I mean, it's not trying to. That's not why it's existing. You know, it's not a movie based on, you know, 2, you know, supremely Christian paranormal investigators. It's like this could have actually happened. that's the other thing too.
A lot of movies fall into that trap, though. They have this great concept and great thing, and then they just decide, but I'm going to say this is better. Mm-hmm. And it can really take away from a film when you make a choice like that. It can add to a film, but it can also really hurt it.
Yeah, definitely. And in this case, by not taking a stance and not trying to push one message or another, it definitely, you know, succeeds because of it.
I think it also probably leaves it open to quite a bit of interpretation, right?
Oh,
if
yeah.
If you're swing one way or the other and you're watching it, you might feel differently about watching this. You might view Black Phillip as a helpful hand on one side, and you might view him on the other side of the coin as a very sinister person.
Also the same with the parents.
Yeah, exactly. You could view both sides. One, they're just trying to help. 2, they are fostering evil. I mean, it's really kind of up to how you view what's going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's really great, and I think that is exactly why we do these rewatchables, because then you can go back and look at those kind of things, and we can have these deeper discussions on movies that merit it. You know, we're not going to have a deeper level discussion on Ready Player One, but
Artemis Fowl.
Just imagining a couple years' time, we're going to have to do a rewatchable on Artemis Fowl.
Well, no, I'll tell you, I'll call it right now. That's our 100th episode. Is a rewatch of Artemis Fowl.
Please leave us a comment on this video on Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, if you want to see our 100th episode be a revisit of Artemis Fowl.
With guest Judi Dench.
Yeah, sure. Let's get on this podcast that has like 15 subscribers on YouTube. Let's do it. That's just
Okay.
she's going to help her career.
Well, we might become dames.
Oh, dude, if that's all it takes, man, sign me up. Let's get her on.
Sign me up.
But one of the other things I want to point out in this movie too is the acting here is awesome.
Oh.
Ralph Ineson and Kate Dickie are great in pretty much everything you put them in. Which recently, because Ralph Ineson played the Green Knight in The Green Knight, and Kate Dickie played, I believe, Guinevere, or the wife of Arthur. So they're kind of A24 mainstays.
Equals,
but
are they in Lamb as well?
No, Lamb is like a Norwegian film or a Swedish film, I think.
No, I thought she was the wife, though. Maybe I'm just mistaken.
No, that was the girl from Prometheus and
you're
girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yeah,
Numi Rapace, that's her name.
Yeah.
And then honestly, like, I love everything that Anya Taylor-Joy does. I think she's fantastic.
Well, she did. This was before Split, and I didn't even realize.
This was her first major film.
Yeah, that she was from this movie, and rewatching it immediately. Of course, she's such a unique look. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the girl from Split, and yeah, she's great.
Yeah, absolutely, and which makes me really excited because they just announced that she will be rejoining Robert Eggers to remake Nosferatu.
Yes.
Which, holy crap, I am so ready for a modern Nosferatu from A24.
Oh yeah, and I also think that she has, I don't know if like this is her genre. I really do think it is, because one, her unique look, but her acting style also denotes itself to be creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, she carries this weight of just like just unsettledness. And it really works for these type of movies that aren't, again, not jump scare, not anything crazy, just uneasy. And she's great at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I also, another part I really liked was the little boy, the brother, when he's on his deathbed, and then when the voice comes out of him. Oh my gosh, what a crazy scene!
It's pretty great.
Yeah,
and it makes this movie worth rewatching.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah,
or watching for the first time.
Yeah, if this is one you've missed and you kind of have liked Hereditary or Midsommar or The Lighthouse, and you're kind of like, man, I really want something that feels like that, or that tickles that part of my brain that The Conjuring and Insidious don't, then this is definitely the one that you're missing, and it'll complete your collection for now.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the best horror movies of the last 10 years. So.
Oh, agreed. Yeah.
Definitely up there. But I don't really have anything else for this movie. I think it's a super strong movie, and I think this is a good horror movie to show people who don't watch horror. Because I am not a horror guy. I don't like horror films that much, especially the jump scare stuff. This movie I love. And I think, and maybe it's because it's the smarter, the A24, whatever you want to call it, but it's just so damn good.
Yeah, I agree. I think for people that don't like horror, this is a great venture, because there's not going to be anything that is going to make you jump out of your seat. It is all very paced and very driven and focused, and you'll get the horror from it without having to close your eyes and hide or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then for people that do like those jump scare movies and horror movies in general, this feels like a new direction and a refreshing one at that. And it'll feel nice to go to this direction if you haven't seen any of these type of movies. I think you'll really enjoy it either way.
Definitely. So let's go ahead. That's a pretty good final thought, but do you have any other final thoughts before your score?
That is my final thought.
So what's your score?
My score is a 93.
93. Alrighty.
Yeah, I love this type of movie. I've read the screenplay. I love everything about this movie and Hereditary and Midsommar. They're just kind of again, they tickle that part of my brain that not a lot of movies do, or not a lot of entertainment does. And whenever a film like this comes out, I run to the theater to go see it. And this is no exception. So this one definitely gets up there on the score.
Definitely. I'm pretty close. I gave it an 89. I do think that it has a little bit of those lingering shots like we were talking about. Yeah. And a little bit, like, depending on who you are, I thought the ending was a little goofy compared to the rest of the movie. But that's just me. But I still think this is really strong. I don't think it's the best A24 horror movie we've gotten. Of all the ones, I think Midsommar is probably the best.
I think Hereditary is better than Midsommar.
Fair.
We'll have to do like not a franchise fever, but a studio symphony.
An A24 where we just watch everything.
Where we just watch all the A24 movies.
But and then one last word of caution: this movie does have the killing and death of an infant. So that may be nudity. There is nudity, yeah. But I mean, more people I think would be turned off by an infant being killed. You don't see it; you just see like the aftermath, which is
And then also, I do want to point out that one thing that I think would, this can be a conversation, but for that final scene where they're floating into the air, I think it would have added a ton to the movie had they panned out really far into the forest, so all you saw was like the bonfire and the little tiny bodies floating, and then show like a traveler in the forest coming across it, and then just leaving it open, like you have no idea what is about to happen to these new wanderers.
Or as it zooms out and you see that group floating up, you see other groups. Like it's more widespread. Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Why am I not working, Hollywood? Give me a job. Anyhow, that's going to bring us to an end for this Rewatchable. Before I ask the typical enforced question to get social media information out of Adrian, I actually have a question for all of you. So, as I was kind of thinking, because we made a post about this one last week saying, hey, we're not going to have an episode this week, and I told you what we were watching. If you are interested, if you think it would be a good idea, or you want to give us any feedback on this idea, what would you guys say about us saying at the end of the episode what our next week episode is going to be? So if you're interested in the movie, you can watch it before we do the episode and kind of form your ideas with ours. Yeah.
I'm in the audience here. That's a great idea.
Cool.
I definitely agree with that, and I think that, especially because we're in the beginning, I'll be honest with the audience, we were playing a little fast and loose with what we recorded and when.
Yeah.
But now we are almost 70 episodes in,
yeah,
and we are very structured. So we definitely know exactly what's going to be happening and when. Pull back the curtain a little bit, but that is definitely possible now.
Yeah, we have the way our scheduling works. We scheduled our episodes all the way out through January, actually, at this point. So we have everything covered we're going to do. So I think let's go ahead and talk about next week. So next week, if you care to join us, we're going to be doing a franchise fever on the How to Train Your Dragon films. Which the first one is available to rent or to stream on Amazon Prime. The second one's available to stream on Netflix, and the third one you have to rent. So if you want to watch those, that's how you can. But we'll be covering all three next week, so look out for that. But Adrian, as I said, the script mandates that I ask a forced question regarding social media details. So let's
give out my personal handle.
That's already done at the beginning of the video. So, but where can people find us online if they want to follow us?
You can find us at the Drive Back Podcast everywhere. If you are seeing our beautiful faces right now, and we are seeing yours, then you are on YouTube. And go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell. We post every Monday, as well as a lot of exclusive content here. So that exclusive content can be anything ranging from like personal videos for each of us of kind of our movie collection, or if a movie's come out that doesn't really denote an entire episode, but we'll go to the midnight premiere, we'll record it the next day so you can get that review right away, decide if you want to go or not. Those are housed in here on YouTube. Ugh. And then if you look up the Drive Back Podcast anywhere else, you'll find us on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all social media. If you're on Spotify or any of those podcasting apps, Stitcher, go ahead and like us and subscribe there, and follow us. And we post every Monday all across our platforms, so you'll catch us there. And then Instagram, we just post every Monday and let you know that we got a new episode out, and it also showcases, in case you missed it just now, what we're actually covering that day.
Absolutely. And besides our social media, you can also find my blog where I review new release films. I'll put it right here. It is GarrettO'KeefeFilm.blogspot.com, which we should be seeing a review up there for Candyman pretty soon. I plan on watching Reminiscence soon, so we'll see if I get a review up for that. But other than that, that is the end for this week's episode. We'll see you next week with the franchise fever for How to Train Your Dragon. We love you so much, and we'll see you next time on The Drive Back. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Drive Back. Make sure to be on the lookout for new episodes every Monday, and make sure to follow us on social media.